Hush, 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 blush, blush, blush.
You are now my big fat crush.
I'm single.
Obese soldiers in the military. Combat is physically strenuous, and to make sure that their armed forces are operating at their fullest potential, militaries around the world require precise standards for the health and fitness of their servicemen and women. Sometimes, however, the healthiest and fittest individuals are not always available, and the armed services are forced to recruit those who are not at their peak physically. Although rare, overweight warriors have been fighting for millennia, in ancient Rome, gladiators were fed high amounts of barley gruel specifically to put on the pounds, the extra mass acting as a built-in body armor to protect them from the swords of their opponents in the arena. Centuries later, after getting badly injured in a jousting accident, the once fit and athletic King Henry VIII of England became immobile and began piling on the pounds until he weighed in at about 400 pounds, together with a 52-inch waist, and had to have specially crafted armor made to accommodate his mighty frame, and even a custom-built wooden platform to enable him to mount his warhorse. Overall, the majority of those engaged in combat endured lives of hard physical labor and a limited caloric intake. In the major wars of the 20th century, one of the main issues with recruitment during these times was underweight soldiers. During both world wars, thousands of conscripts and volunteers were rejected for being undernourished, the fear being that these men would not have the strength, stamina, or sheer physical capabilities needed to perform the arduous duties of a soldier. When recruits did arrive for basic training, those who were overweight quickly shed the pounds. During the Second World War, it was recognized that an average man of military age would require about 2,400 calories a day without engaging in any activity, the energy requirements then spiking due to the physical necessities of military service, countless miles of marching, hauling upwards of 60 pounds of equipment around, running, shooting, and the myriad of other metabolically taxing situations soldiers may find themselves in. Though the exact makeup and nutritional value required varied from country to country, most militaries try to issue their soldiers between 3,500 and 4,700 calories a day. Even with these seemingly high caloric rations, it was not uncommon for those carrying the extra pounds to lose the excess weight while in service. If a potential recruit was severely obese, he would almost certainly be rejected from service on medical grounds, as someone who was that unfit was going to be more of a liability than an asset. There were some exceptions to this, though.
Oh no! My plane's connection to our servers must be unsecured. That was close. With NordVPN threat protection, no matter where I fly, I'll be protected from malware and other threats. With amazing speeds, NordVPN has been confirmed by tests to be the fastest VPN on the market and works on every major platform. Whether you need access to movies and games available in other countries, or you need to find discounts not available in your hometown, NordVPN is the perfect way to get what you need without having to hop in a plane and go there yourself. Get the exclusive NordVPN deal here. It's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee.
During both world wars, the industrial scale of the conflicts forced entire nations to mobilize. Citizens from all walks of life were sent off to fight for their homeland, and the majorly overweight were no exception. In Britain, for example, former service members aged 41 to 55 were organized into the Home Guard. Many of these men were veterans of the Great War and were familiar with the rigors of Army life. But with 2 decades between service, their most physically active days were behind them. These middle-aged men were eager to put on a uniform again, but many of them were more rotund than the last time they had worn one. These men were not expected to fight, the only exception being if the island was invaded. They were not subject to the same PT requirements of their younger peers who would see frontline service. Instead, they busied themselves with anti-aircraft duties, guarding airfields and other installations, and manned beach defenses. None of these tasks required significant caloric expenditure. Likewise, across the English Channel, the German military was also forced to utilize the overweight. After suffering titanic losses, especially on the Eastern Front, the Germans called up those who were less physically fit to fill the ranks that were rapidly being depleted. It's difficult to get exact figures, but pictorial evidence shows overweight soldiers in Wehrmacht uniforms almost certainly on garrison duty where they did not have to face the high energy expenditure of their frontline comrades. Like their British counterparts, these duties included manning anti-aircraft guns, garrison duty, especially in occupied territories, and monitoring beaches along the Atlantic Wall. By putting these out-of-shape men in these locations, physically active soldiers were freed up to fight on the front lines elsewhere. While most overweight soldiers were sent to rear echelon duties, there were some exceptions to this rule. During the Vietnam War, the American military deliberately placed at risk those that would normally be considered unfit for service. Officially known as Project 100,000 and more cynically referred to as McNamara's morons, this was a deliberate attempt to place less than capable individuals in combat roles. The majority of the unwitting participants in this program were men of a lower IQ and with limited mental faculties, but also consisted of a number of men who were both underweight and overweight by military standards. For those who were overweight, they could be up to 20% heavier than the normal standards would allow. In order for the experiment to run properly, these men would be treated to the exact same physical standards as their more fit comrades. While no doubt some of the men did lose weight under the rigors of military life, they would often be assigned additional training, called the Medically Remedial Enlistment Program, in order to correct their physical condition, including carrying the extra pounds. Otherwise, performance standards of these recruits were not lowered in any way, or the experiment that was Project 100,000 would be invalidated. Although there is no information about overweight soldiers and their direct combat performance, what is known is that McNamara's morons as a whole suffered casualty rates in excess of twice that of their peers. Fighting the flab continues to this day, and in recent decades many Western countries have experienced a sharp increase in their obesity rate. As a result, the pool of recruits a nation could draw upon is increasingly consisting of the overweight and the obese. In a recent survey, the U.S. military has found that 20% of male recruits and 40% of female recruits are heavier than normal, requiring them to lose the pounds before being able to serve their country. In spite of this, a reported 20% of active-duty American military personnel are still overweight. In Great Britain, while not quite as severe, approximately 1 in 10 British personnel are considered to be exceeding the standards for a healthy BMI, or body mass index. There are theories as to why this is happening. One factor may be the sedentary nature of military service today. Many tasks are now computerized, meaning that the soldier spends a lot of time sitting in front of a computer screen, rather than hauling 60 or more pounds of gear through difficult conditions for hours, if not days on end. Exacerbating this issue is the food served on military bases. Fast food chains often set up shop in or near military bases, and they're often frequented by soldiers stationed nearby, their calorie-dense menus contributing to this growing problem. Even combat zones are not safe from the scourge of fast food. In 2003, shortly after the invasion of Iraq, 2 popular fast food franchises set up stations at a coalition military base located near Basra and were soon joined by others. Fast food locations soon sprang up at other American and British bases throughout the country. In both Iraq and Afghanistan, coalition soldiers were able to sample their favorite takeaway menus with a myriad of fast food restaurants, all ready to serve those in uniform. The rationale for having such unhealthy food is that it provides a morale boost for those in the field, giving them a taste of home while deployed overseas. While the rank and file should ideally be kept in shape, the commanders are a different matter entirely. During the Second World War, the commander of Germany's Luftwaffe Air Force was Reichsmarschall Hermann Göring, who was well known for his flamboyant lifestyle, as well as his impressive girth. A slim and dashing fighter pilot during the First World War, he developed a morphine addiction after recovering from injuries sustained during Adolf Hitler's failed beer hall putsch in 1923, which contributed to his erratic behavior and mood swings, which may have led to his overindulgence for food and alcohol. By the time of the Second World War, he had ballooned to around 300 pounds, though his weight did fluctuate, as he would occasionally go on crash diets to lose the extra pounds, something the Allied propaganda program was eager to capitalize on. Numerous depictions of him in propaganda images show Göring as a rotund individual covered in medals, a flamboyant character to be made fun of. After his capture, American guards during the Nuremberg trials referred to him as the Fat One. Even in the modern day, there are some commanders who take to the field while obviously totally out of shape. In the current war in Ukraine, there have been speculative reports of a certain General Pavel, a retired army officer who Vladimir Putin has recalled to active service in light of the Russian losses in the conflict. General Pavel is believed to be a 69-year-old former officer who spent his retirement enjoying the finer things in life, eating a reported 5 full meals a day, washing it all down with a liter of vodka. It has been reported by certain media outlets that even the largest size body armor is too small to fit his massive frame, requiring 2 vests spliced together to provide adequate protection. It turns out, however, that reports of General Pavel are grossly exaggerated. Fact-checkers looked into the absurd story, and it was revealed that Pavel is in fact a 58-year-old Border Patrol officer named Ivan Turchin. Further research has provided no evidence that he has been sent to Ukraine or has any other involvement in that conflict. While General Pavel is a fabrication of the media, what is true is the use of obese individuals for propaganda purposes. Much like Hermann Goering in the Second World War, this is a case where an overweight man was lampooned to highlight the absurdity of the opposing side. Recently, many people have expressed concerns about the current obesity epidemic plaguing many societies, and the lack of physically fit recruits is seen as a national security issue. Whether this is true or not, history provides many examples of heavyset warriors, whether these individuals serve due to desperation, as an experiment in combat effectiveness, or simply the nature of their line of work. What is clear is that warriors can come in all shapes and sizes.